Currently, it is not.
Talking about telephones now, some have said that telecommunications companies are either not, doing enough or are somehow, tacitly aiding e-fraud through the millions of scam text messages and phone calls that they make to members of the public. But do you think that telcos are also culpable in aiding and abating criminals to perpetrate e-fraud?
I think that will be a misnomer, really, because if you look at how this flow and exchange, even telcos will be victims to some extent because they rely on other external equipment. Now, I'll give you an example. You have 5 telcos, and I use one of them, and you use another, and the other guy is using another. So I have to get through your telco to the other guy. So I'm using 3 telcos to be able to do one thing. If they are not synchronized, if they're not standardized, and if you don't have the same capability of manpower, then of course there's leakage. Who do you blame? Do you blame the origin that sends to you and the middleman that does not really understand that efficiency, who passes it over to the destination? So the issue is that we are really in a big danger, and I tell you why. The telcos themselves have, in the last 10 years, acquired some infrastructure that are getting old. And infrastructures of these telecommunications, you don't buy them off the shelf, okay? If you want to renew, of course, you need to plan about 3-5 years ahead for your renewal because it has to be specially manufactured.
Dr. Wajay, we'll come back and continue this conversation, but let's take a quick break and catch our breath.
Okay,
Business Morning continues in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. The conversation with Dr. Chris Wajay, the chairman, Mobile Software Solutions, continues now as we talk about how ICT can curb crime in the financial sector, particularly in the banks. Dr. Wajay, thank you so much for sticking around.
It's my pleasure.
Just before we went on that quick break, we were talking about the danger, but you were talking about it with regards to telecos, but that's not the focus. We're talking about the banks. And we know that the Central Bank of Nigeria has really been on about, boosting cashless policy drive. How would e-fraud be a drawback? Will it be a drawback for this policy drive?
I think it would, but then there are solutions. You cannot totally eliminate e-fraud because indeed, when you look at e-fraud is really a sort of a cultural attitude from the traditional fraud. People steal here and there, all over the world, for a reason that is best known to them. But then the act of stealing, that they want to steal and they don't want to get caught. So you need to create, a sort of an antidote of getting them caught. And how to get them caught, as we've seen, there are 2 principles that we've seen over there for sophisticated hacking and e-fraud, financial espionage and whatever. You create a tracking system to get that guy or that team to be able to create what we now call convertible resource. Not to punish them, but to convert them, because if they can break into your system, it means that they can be a better safeguard for your system for other people who want to break in. So that culture needs to be established. And to do that, you need to establish a recognized ethical hackers organization in Nigeria. It exists in Germany, it exists in the US, it exists in Russia, it is everywhere. So that they know themselves and they are registered and they behave ethically and they have a standard.
What about the banks? What is their role in this regard? We know that the Central Bank of Nigeria has asked banks to set up fraud desks in their various branches and, work closely with the NIBSS. But then, in terms of developing firewalls, is it just enough to have a fraud desk? Is it enough for you to have the requisite firewalls or the IPv6 6, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
What more can banks do in
Yeah,
helping
I think
themselves?
what banks can do, as other banks are doing, is to be able to outsource a significant part of their security networks to the industry. You cannot be a banking organization with your core competence and then you want to master technology, then of course you will be dissipating, your capacity. So you need to be able to ensure that you can outsource that security component to a certain extent to a very classified security, IT security
So
firm.
the fraud desk should be made up of professionals from the ICT industry.
Absolutely. And of course, you even have the Act 49 of 1993, which Nigeria has so put up so perfectly that you need to have the register of IT professionals in the country to practice, just like lawyers or doctors and all whatnot. I think this is one of the things that they have envisaged. So the Computer Professional Registration Council is involved in registering them. So if a bank employs somebody at the fraud desk that is not a certified member of CPN or not a professional member of Nigerian Computer Society, then automatically you are increasing the vulnerability of your bank and people will steal your money. Because if the smarter guys are outside and the non-smarter guys are inside, they will always beat the guys inside. But as we said, there is a significant level of insider collusion to this fraud. And central bank should really look at those who are in the operational level of this e-transaction to make sure that they are classified. If anything is going to go right, it's within the cycle. If majority of things is going to go wrong, it is within the same cycle. So you have to have a special database of who is doing who, what, in that sphere, especially as regards to software, as regards to networking, as regards to embedded system, as regards to interface connectivity. And we must be able to ensure that, Bome is here, what happened at this point in time? Then you have a layer software that can now also track externally on what they are doing.
But then can this bank verification number, that the central bank has mandated that all banks must ensure that their customers have, can it be an antidote to e-fraud?
Oh, the issue is really the BVN is just a capsulated layer of a folder in software, okay? It creates what they call the onion layer. It is the omnibus